The Kano model is a great way to think about customer satisfaction criteria and how to prioritize them for your next project. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we make operational excellence practical. And today we will be discussing, well, honestly quite an involved model. It looks simple, but to really do this, it is quite a bit of work and thinking and organization, and it's the Kano model. This is one of the better ways to examine your customer wishes and also especially those type of product and service criteria that really have an impact on customer satisfaction. And this, it's used a lot when you're thinking more about the marketing and sales, like the new product development, the new service things, but it is also really useful in any type of lean transformation where we're looking for internal and external customers for our existing processes so that we can improve the product, the process, the experience. Now, when do we use this as operational excellence people, as continuous improvement specialists? Well, we use it when we want to sort of focus on what is important to the ones benefiting from our products and services, and especially when we sort of want to make a priority in what are we going to tackle next. Right? So you have a couple of things that really need to be in your product, also in the way you work. If that is sort of lacking or not implemented in a good way, it just ruins the experience so much. If this is the case, tackle them. But if they are there, improving it doesn't do much. Then you have a couple of things that improving is just good, some new stuff, some stuff that doesn't matter. But how do you know, right? So that is what we will be discussing. And we'll start basically with that first thing I said. There are product features that if you don't have them, the product or service is just, well, sort of worthless, right? And there's a couple of sets of what is a nice example, but let's take cars, right? If on a car, maybe the automatic, but anyway, the shift, the gearbox is just horrible, right? Every time that you want to change gears, you almost need to stop the car, wrestle with the car, or if you're in an automatic, you really feel that hard knock in your back. That thing just needs to work, right? It needs to be able to shift gears. And preferably in a nice and soft way. So this is a bit that thing, if it's not there, so if it's absent, it's really bad. But the thing is, if it's sort of there, but not implemented nicely, it's still a dissatisfier. And quite honestly, even if it's fully present, well, it will be a zero satisfier, right? So it looks a bit like this. It gets to 0 on the satisfaction. So it's not a dissatisfier anymore, but it also, this does not delight your consumer that you have a normally working gear in your car. So we also often call this a must-be or a basic premise. Then we've got some stuff that, if it gets better, the experience gets better. In cars, this would be maybe quality of seats or acceleration, things like fuel efficiency. Right? People like a higher fuel efficiency. Now, if a car is not very fuel efficient, it doesn't mean we're not going to buy the car, but it definitely counts in our purchasing choices. But the other thing is, when my car is more fuel efficient than average, that doesn't beat her off. That actually is still nice. The more fuel efficient it gets, the better. The more comfortable the chairs, the better. So these are so that if it's absent, then we have a problem. If it's absent, if it's really poor, like poor fuel efficiency or really not comfortable chairs. If it's sort of average, we're also sort of averagely satisfied. But these ones, they continue. So if it's fully implemented, really present, good quality, the satisfaction goes up. And these are what we call performance characteristics, right? The better the performance, the better the satisfaction as well. The thing is, it does cost a lot to fully implement most of these features usually. So there's always that sort of balance, right? But the idea is the better you get at this, the more satisfied your customer will be. But then there's this funny category of if it's not there, like aerated seats or even seat heating some years ago, but cooled or warmed seats. Honestly, my car has neither, but I've been driving in my friend's car that has that in summer. Ooh, that is nice. If it's not there, I don't even really miss it per se. The same goes for all kinds of, and here's the thing, new gadgets. Right? It was really cool to have my AirPlay and mirror link stuff, to get your phone onto the car. But 10 years ago, that was a novelty. I really didn't care if it was not included in a car. Now I would like it. And here we have a good hint of what is about to come. But these are those things, if they're absent, that's not really a problem, right? We're not getting dissatisfied by that. If they are poorly implemented, okay, maybe. But if they are implemented relatively okay, not even perhaps to the fullest, these really go up. So these are things that if you don't have them, it's not a big problem, but if you do have them, it can really delight the consumer. So those are the delighters. Those are the wow makers, right? These are not all of the factors we have, but they are sort of the only ones I'm going to put into this Kano graph. Mr. Kano, who first talked about invented, it's not really described this system. He also described two other categories. Indifferent and reverse. What indifferent basically means is, I don't care if it's in there or not. You might think we don't have these, but there's plenty. For customers, and especially for the end consumers, all kinds of quality checks or regulatory thingies that sort of need to be in there, couldn't care less. Now, you may say, yeah, but they are for their own safety. True, but if the consumer does not see that safety thing really going up, so safety is probably a must-be, maybe a performance thing, it depends a bit on which features, but some audit check mark somewhere that the VIN number is in their car, to most consumers, they really don't care. I know it's important, and they will know it's important when you explain it to them. When you explain the ramifications of driving around in a car without a VIN, then they will get pissed. But, reverse is a bit of a funny one, because reverse is basically the performance the other way. Right? So if it is not present, we're very happy, satisfied. If it is really present, we are dissatisfied. So these are things that ruin the experience. And yes, that also happens. Now, I don't really know what this would be on a car, because car manufacturers were really happy, really good at not putting them on, but sort of, to me, a spoiler might even get like that, right? Too many sports elements on a car that really doesn't need it, to me, is a reverse. Some other people, and here's another nice clue, some other people will actually like this, or have it as a delighter even. Now, that is how the framework works. So what do we then get from this? Right? The must-be's, you see, if we don't have them at least sort of at an average level, they are going to be really big satisfaction drains. If you're missing must-be's, that's almost guaranteed to be your first priority to implement. On the performance and delighter, there's much more of a balance. See, moving things from absent or poorly implemented or a little bit towards fully implemented, well done, good quality, well, that tend to cost resources, right? So it can make your car more expensive. It can also mean difficulties in your factory to produce them. Maybe you don't have the technology yet. So there's all kinds of reasons why you don't have it yet. And here we really do need to be thinking of, okay, what are we going to do, right? Are we going to make a incremental change to a performance characteristic? Can we make a step change to a performance characteristic? Because then it almost is as good as a delighter. What will happen? Do we have a nice delighter, something we can add to the car that really enhances the driving experience? Well, in that case, you see that satisfaction, the customer satisfaction, tends to shoot up a lot more with a delighter than with a performance thing. But both of them will basically give you a positive effect, and it does not have a very serious drawback if you don't have it. So here we get into the choices, and here we get into what is the priority versus the cost. Cost, by the way, is definitely on the performance axis. In fact, cost would be that reverse one, right? So low cost, high satisfaction, high cost, low satisfaction. How much the car costs is always in that category. But this one is a bit of a tricky one, right? This is it's not a quality or experience characteristic. So don't get too bogged down in exactly how bad is that cost parameter. Think about the characteristics, the options, the features that will add. But how do we find them out? Well, for that, and this is where the big work comes in. Drawing up this Kano model, and just with you and two colleagues thinking of different aspects and putting them in a graph, picking one, calling it a day, and presenting to management. Yeah, well, it can still be useful. I won't deny that, because it really is a good thought-provoking exercise. But the real power of this model is when you actually go to the customers. And I've now done the car to consumer example, right? But this also goes for when you're doing something for your own employees, for instance, or how are we going to make our sort of semi-finished product and hand it over to our colleagues in the next department. And this is not only about the quality of the product you're handing out, right? It's also how. So how do we palletize it? How do we give the information? What parts do we include? Don't we include? How do we put it? When do we put it next to their stations? The whole package. Because probably just making a good semi-finished product is in the must-be's. I hope you're doing that. If you don't, work on it. But there's stuff around it, like the service with the packaging, with the product. So we can do this by going to those customers, external or internal, in talking panels or interviews. So that's why this is quite a bit of work. You need to interview, panel, maybe do it with an inquiry, written feedback definitely can work, but usually better with some guidance. And there is a bit of a combo of two questions that you need to ask. And this is, so if this is present, or depending on which characteristic you are asking about, if we would do more of this, would you like that? Would you basically expect it? Are you neutral on it? Would you tolerate it? Like, it's sort of not good, but Or would you dislike it? And then you have to ask a second question, and this is a little bit of a test as well, but it is important because it goes to these two aspects here. So that same characteristic, what if it's absent? Or what if there's less of this characteristic? Would you like, expect, be neutral, tolerate, or dislike this? Now, that will give us the how does it work? If it is present, and we basically just expect it to be present, and we would really dislike it if it is absent, then we have a must-be characteristic. If we have something that if it is present, I like it, if it is not present, I dislike it. We have a performance characteristic. A delighter would be something that If it's there, I like it. If it's not there, sort of neutral about it. And if people say, I don't really care when it's there or when it's not there, then we know that we've got an indifferent characteristic, and of course the reverse of performance. When I dislike it being present and I like it being absent, we have got a reverse characteristic. Now, you also do these two questions because if you get, I expect it to be present and I like it to be absent, this is nonsense. Or like to be present, expect to be absent, well, that is not really a good answer, right? They didn't really understand the question. This is not how you feel about it. This is, somebody just took the expectation a bit too seriously. Oh, I expect that there will be no heated seating on my next car. But I would like it. Like, yeah, okay. Well, maybe it is a delighter because it's so close. But if I like and like, or I expect and like, that one's out, right? So that's how you feel about it. The tolerate is just, it's a little bit between the neutral and the dislike, and you see that not all of the squares have a rating. So you will have to do a little bit of adjusting. You have very clear categories, and you have the sort of in-between answers. And then, one of the things that I promised you from the start, there is a difference between people, right? I may not like the spoilers or other sport thingies on my car. Other people really do. So do this with your target audience group, not just any customer, but the ones you really want to delight. And remember that that AirPlay thingy, right? That my iPhone can connect to my car. That used to be a delighter. Then it's sort of, well, this one sort of skip performance. It's not really if you can do it better or not. Well, a little bit, right? So there's a couple of systems that do allow touchscreens and others don't. But lately I found that to me it's a basic criterion. I want to use my phone's navigation and music and call functions and not the car system. So it went from a delighter to a must-be. And quite honestly, the navigation of the car itself went from, before that AirPlay, from a delighter to a, I actually don't care anymore. Right? So these criteria, they move. And sometimes, when the implementation of a criterion, of a characteristic, is really good, that can still be a performance or delighter thing. While for other brands, it's already not that well. So then that one brand kept it as a delighter. But generally, you will see that customer expectations move. If a whole generation of phones has GPS, then the next generation better also have it. Oh, so it actually became a must-be. We expect it to be there, and we really get pissed when it's not there. So keep that in mind. Your study of 5 years ago, probably things moved quite a bit already. So go and check again. Go and check again with your consumers if you have that access directly to your consumers. I know that probably you are in manufacturing and don't have that direct access. If you are in a bit smaller company and you have access directly to your product development teams, to your customer satisfaction teams, this is really good to do together with them. Because you also need to know which things you can implement, right? So it's not just what the customer wants. It's also about what can we do. But even if you are some middle step in the process, remember you have customers as well. And maybe you don't really care about that customer in finance, but come on, they're colleagues, and the next department downstream that is getting the stuff you make, I hope you care about how satisfied they are with what they receive from you. So do this analysis on your customers, whether they're external or internal. Do take the time to actually ask these two questions about each of the characteristics you want to test. Plot them and then you will get a really good Kano analysis that will help you to prioritize what you're going to be working on. So write to me in the comments, please. Did you use this system, and have you actually, because I often see it without, how do we get the data? Have you done this fully? What are your experiences? Do you perhaps have a different system that you like a lot more to sort of understand customer preference? Write that down in the comments. It may also spawn some new video explainers. For now, I wish you the best of luck, really focusing on your customer satisfaction needs, delighting those customers, and as always, also don't forget to enjoy the continuous improvement journey.